Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Doug, along with Brad,
Hey everybody.
and pretty late on this one. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, like 3 months, but to be fair, I've been playing it for about a month now. So I mean, really, if I actually had time to play games, like it would have only taken like we would have only been like 2 months late on
Too
this.
many. Yeah, Brad actually got to finally play and finish Final Fantasy 15, which was I think we talked about it like when we've talked about like intermittently about it. My experience with it is I've played all the demos, like the Dusk Guide, Platinum, and the Japanese demo. So I put about 10 hours in the game. And then Brad, well, 10 hours in the demos. And Brad, you actually own the game. I felt like I had my time with it, to be totally honest,
Like
with the
your
demos.
10 hours of demos was plenty, and just leave it there.
Yeah, it was sufficient. So actually, I'm really curious because you're pretty big. You're not. I want to say you're a big Final Fantasy. Like we're talking to a YouTube audience. Like you're relatively not a big Final Fantasy fan.
In comparison to the grand scheme, no. But have I played every one since seven? Yes.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's a good place to start. I mean, does this feel like a worthy successor to the Final Fantasy series?
I think so. I like how it fits in with them, and I like the changes that they made, especially coming off 13, which admittedly I did enjoy, and I know I'm in the very, very, very tiny minority of like me and that one other guy.
Yeah, you actually played like the 13 saga.
Yes, I played all of 13 too. I think I only ended up making it like halfway through Lightning Returns because I got it like super late. It was like one of those like, oh, this is finally $5. I'll buy that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and totally got distracted with it. But
Mhm.
yeah, I like it, and I like the changes that they've made to this. And
Mhm.
it's one of those things where you initially like going in, you're like, this is such a weird story for Final Fantasy. It doesn't have the world-ending conflicts. Like 10 opens with essentially just the world is dying and everything's gonna
Yeah.
die in a minute, whereas 10 opens up with like, oh yeah, like you're
Oh,
going for a road trip to meet your wife.
oh, 15. You mean 15
Yeah,
opens up with that? Yeah.
sorry, but yeah, so it's just it's a very different story, and I love the fact that this one focuses on the characters. I can honestly tell you I have no clue 90% of what happened in that game.
In
And
okay.
and this is what people have said before, is that if you didn't watch the anime, you didn't watch the movie, there are so many huge gaps in the story. I can give you the general plot outline of what happened, but there are details here and there that's like, that character seems important, and I know he came from somewhere, and I know he's a bad guy.
Okay. Yeah, that's
And that's like where I'm left at. It's like I don't know his motivation, I don't know this, but what the game does so well is you really truly feel like the three other guys in your party are like your best friends.
yeah.
The game does such an awesome job of establishing that from the opening moments all the way up through the last part. And I guess I don't really want to get into spoilers, but there's a couple parts to the end that really reinforce this like friendship feeling and this
Mm,
bond between these three characters. And that's really what kept me going through this, because like I said, the story, I couldn't tell you half the story details. Like if somebody,
mhm.
you could probably fill in blanks with whatever made up stuff you want to right now, and I'd probably just believe you.
Yeah, no,
But
I've heard it's like a real mismatch, but like I've heard this like reflected before, where it's like the plot makes no sense, but it's like the characters for whatever reason they were able to survive whatever horrible development hell and come out actually is like pretty cool.
yeah, and the interactions between them, because you're just, as you're driving along, there's talking back and forth, the cutscenes that there are, and the way that the characters interact with some of the events going on. Again, trying not to get into spoilers, but some major things happen, and just the way the characters kind of support each other. It's very much this like, oh, you know what, like that's the way this would play out, and that was one of the things that I really liked about Uncharted 4 was the relationship between um, Drake and, I'm blanking on her name, his wife.
Oh, I'm gonna say Ellie, maybe.
That was my thought too. Okay. But yeah, between Drake and Ellie and their like how their marriage worked, and how that's a really good representation of like a real life marriage. I have the same feeling with these four characters of going like that's how like a good group of friends would interact. Like
Mm,
something horrible happens, these guys are there to support them. Like there's one point, and this isn't really super huge spoiler, like one gets pissed off, and like you still have that group, like you're like, oh man, this is kind of awkward because you're still stuck together because like you're a part of this group, but you know that like these characters are pissed at each other, and it
yeah.
has that like, okay, this is what real life friendships are like, and it really does a
Mhm.
great job of emulating that. So it just, that to me was kind of the driving factor of like, I just want to see more about what these characters are doing. I want to see what these four guys are doing as they're going through this big plot of whatever the hell is happening with kings and different
Yeah.
empires, I think, or something. I'm not, again, couldn't go into detail on that because it's just, I don't know why I missed it or if I missed it, or, and I know I've heard like missing parts there, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's just interesting to see that. And I love games driven on something other than these world ending events like in 10, like you have to go and stop the giant thing that's just going to end the world. And,
Yeah.
13, everything's going to turn to crystal if you don't do this. Like, it's
Hmm.
just, these two emperors are fighting and you got to go stop them.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel like I'm starting to realize like I like sort of RPGs that have like more intimate stories. I think that's actually not super common. With just most JRPGs in general, like you said, like it always has to get to some sort of like cataclysmic event.
Yeah.
Um, I've been playing. Sorry, I've been playing Yakuza recently, and everything takes place in two cities, and that's it. Like you're not there's
Hmm.
not some sort of like world event. It's just like these characters and these like little things. I always like that little sort of like little pocket stories, kind of. I mean, besides the fact that like, do you mind like they're all human and all that? Like, did that ever bug you at all? Like, they're
No,
no,
and honestly, like as you're saying this, like this is the first time I'm even thinking about that. That like, oh yeah, like most other Final Fantasy games, there's these weird like talking creatures in it and stuff.
and that doesn't
Um,
phase you at all. Like, at no point did
no,
you feel like this is
I
not, yeah.
I will, like I said, like up until this, like I never honestly even thought about that till right now. So
I
it's
mean,
one of
a
those
lot of
things.
people had problems with that because it is like you are not really, from what I understand anyway. I have not played the game, that you're not doing like this huge world traveling, like you are traveling between. It's a much smaller story, so it doesn't have as many characters from like different races and different tribes and different this and different that.
But again, there is like that because there are these kind of two different governments or empires or whatever they were, and it does, because you're driving around this world, it feels much bigger,
Hmm.
because this feels bigger to me than a lot of other worlds. And it's not because, oh, I'm not going here and here and there's these different races, but it's because, okay, it took me 4 or 5 minutes to get over here, which at times as you're going through the game does get kind of old sitting in a car. Like there are a couple times where it's like, okay, auto drive to there because I can't fast travel yet because I haven't been there yet,
Yeah.
and I'll just read an article on my computer for a minute while the game's driving itself, which happens a couple times as you go through. But again, it does feel bigger because there are these major cities. At one point, you travel to this different island that's its own completely gorgeous, gorgeous city. My wife actually came down and was like, "Oh, you're in Venice," and I was like, "No, this is whatever the name of the city is." She's like, "Oh no, that's that's Italy. You're in Italy right now, and
Hmm.
it's beautiful and it's well made, but." There's this distance between these things that makes it not only feel big, but it feels realistic. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
it makes sense that I would take a 10 minutes in a video game, but that obviously feels like forever because you're sitting there watching on TV, drive from this city to this city.
Yeah, yeah.
And to get to the island, you jump on a boat and you're on the boat, and the boat works the same way as the car, where you're just kind
Mhm.
of watching it go, and it feels really big just because of that.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that I'm starting to really, really like about this sort of generation of games is like this sort of cohesiveness of worlds. I think Dark Souls, the Soul series, is like the only one I can directly compare it to, where it's just like some big, gigantic, interconnected world, and that's not something you generally see with JRPGs. From the JRPGs I've played, like it feels like you are sort of like kind of pushed along this line, or like you go to a map and then you click on it, like nope, now
Yeah.
I'm going to this, I'm transported like magically to this thing. But I really like that interconnectivity, and like I think a lot of people were kind of disappointed with the open world aspects of Final Fantasy. But to me, I was like, the thing I really liked about playing the demos and playing the Duskai demos is that it felt like a living, breathing world, which is
Oh,
not,
for sure.
which like is Final Fantasy games do not feel like to me personally do not feel like that, because I always feel like the battle system is at odds with the world, like with that sort of turn-based action, and like you sort of
Oh,
get
and the
transported.
taking out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I've always had issues with that, but like when I was playing this, I was like, "Oh wow, this is like what a living, breathing Final Fantasy world is like." And to me, that was like real. I love, love, love that aspect. So I mean, does that carry on to like through the full game, where you feel like that sort of like living, breathing world, or after a while, does it feel kind of like just video game?
No, and it feels that way because of the way the battle system structured and because of how free you are to kind of do whatever you want. There's a lot of points where you're like, there's a giant thing over there. I'm going to walk around it, which you
Hmm.
never get in prior Final Fantasy games because it's pretty much you're on your path and, oh, I want to go that way and that thing's in the way. Now it's like, okay, well, if I just drive around it or if I go
Hmm.
over this way, I can wander past it. And again, the battle system has much more of it's like escape seems manageable. Where
Yeah.
in other ones, it's like, okay, I have to hit escape. I have to hope that my chances are right, and I have to try it 4 times, and then I can get out of this screen and go back to the world. Whereas this is just on your mini map, it gives you the little circle and you just got to run out of the circle, which again makes sense in that living, breathing world sense of I can just
run away.
This thing's gonna kick my ass. I can just run away, and that's a totally viable option.
Yeah.
There's one side quest in particular towards the end of the game that I just did where you run into this like monster that's essentially like, nope, this is pretty clearly the thing you got to kill at the very, very end of the game when you're like the max level.
Yeah.
And you run into it and you're just like, oh, well, okay, run away from this. And it's like, okay, I can see that. And I know that I have the ability to run away instead of, oh, I just have to get my ass kicked by this, see the game over screen, load my previous save, and then avoid that spot for the next 10 hours.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to get in the battle system because this was like literally the reason I did not get this game. I was a huge like Versus 13 fan. Like to me, I was like Final Fantasy with Kingdom
of the
Hearts
trailer.
Combat. Yeah, well, to be clear, there was some gameplay released, and like literally what it was originally pitched as was Final Fantasy with Kingdom Hearts Combat. And I played the Duscae demo, and then I played the Japanese full release demo, and I was like, this is not Kingdom Hearts Combat. This is something a little bit weird, and to me, it just felt like a bad action RPG, like a bad action game. And people kept saying, it's like, well, when you get more skills and stuff, it opens up. But like, from what I had played, it just felt like a really bad action game. And you play a lot of action. You've played like a lot of Devil May Cry and Bayonetta and all those. Like, I know you can't directly compare it to those because this is not those. But I mean, how do you feel about the combat? Like,
I liked it, and it's one of those things where it depends on what you want out of it.
Yeah.
I think it's that good mix of turn-based with a little bit of that Bayonetta Devil May Cry style thrown in there. And I think as you progress through it, yes, you learn a little bit more about, okay, dodging attacks. Now you've got your magic attacks that you throw in there, and the way you craft magic kind of changes it up, and you're waiting for your magic attacks to replenish. And again, a lot of it comes down to, okay, how can I, when you get to some of the end bosses and you get to some of the end higher level enemies, a lot of it comes down to, okay, I need to do these, behind the back strikes. I need to link up with people. I need to use my tech gauge, which essentially is your like partner skills with one of your other characters in your party. So you can develop those as you go through the game, and those change the way things work, versus where those are more could be your area of effect attacks, that can be your healing attack, that can be those types of things that are thrown in there. So it never gets to the point of Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, obviously.
Yeah.
But I still do think Kingdom Hearts is kind of an apt comparison, because Kingdom Hearts I always feel like is just kind of, you know what? I kind of hitting my attack button, I've got my dodge button, and occasionally I can kind of do a couple other things thrown in there. And I think that's really what it is. And it's been a long time since I played Kingdom Hearts. I haven't touched one since 2 back when it came out. But in my mind, that's what I remember it as, is it's simple. There's some depth there if you want to get into it, but you could definitely play this game pretty much just with, I'm going to attack, and occasionally I'm going to dodge.
Yeah, because that's what was happening to me. Like from what I had played, mind you, it's still like early game stuff was like I am attacking or I am dodging, and like that was it. Like there was no thinking involved. Like when I play stylish act, like I think I will say this game did make JRPG fans appreciate the thought that goes into playing action games, because you are thinking about like getting behind the character. You're thinking about like, okay, this combo is actually too fast or too slow, and for this type of enemy, this combination, this and that. Where I was going with this. But yeah, to me, it felt like, yeah, like I was either attacking or defending, and there was like no thought process into it. I mean, are you saying they're like, I mean, besides like, I was doing just fine just attacking and dodging. I was killing enemies like twice, like 3 or 4 times my own level just by attacking and dodging.
That not so much. That is very much an early game thing. Like once you hit 15 or 20, then you start getting to the point where, okay, I'm level 20, that's level 30, probably not going to happen.
Okay. Yeah.
So that kind of goes away. But I think the idea of I can attack and dodge comes and goes as you play the game. I think there are certain points where, yeah, very much you can just do that, and then there are other points where it's nope, you actually have to think through this. And a lot of the end game stuff really gets into, okay, you got to think about what you're doing here. And I'm thinking of one boss in particular that I got stuck on for a bit. Nothing super overly crazy difficult. The game really isn't that hard. But I mean, again, I don't think I want this. I don't want this to be Devil May Cry. I don't want this to be Bayonetta. I like that we're somewhere in this range of, it still has the holdover from the turn-based things with your tech gauge and being able to use those partner attacks on a limited basis and having to think through when you can use those. I like that, okay, I can't just spam fire spells at this guy. I can spam my fire spell. I have to wait a little bit until my magic gauge replenishes, and then I can throw that back out there. So I like that it has those elements. It's a good middle ground for me, and I don't think it's a system that's going to work overly well over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But as a good change of pace of going, this is something in the middle. You don't. It feels to me like, okay, you like action games. Well, maybe if you try Final Fantasy, it might get you interested in turn-based. Oh, you like turn-based. Well, maybe if you try Final Fantasy, you might like action games. It's like that good like gateway into going from one to the other.
But that
makes sense.
My question is does that turn like a jack of all trades, masters of none sort of thing?
Yes.
Okay.
I think for sure. But I don't always think that's bad.
Yeah.
Because I think, yes, it's not perfect in either sense, but I'm not going to Final Fantasy going, this gameplay is going to blow me out of the water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Older Final Fantasies 10, 9, 8, 7 are pretty standard traditional turn-based things. Yes, they have their own kinks thrown in there, and yes, there's some things specifically that they each do.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it is just, you're here for the kind of the story. You're here for the adventure. And that's kind of the way that I look at this game is I love that part of it. And yes, the gameplay is good, and I like the way the battle system works. And if they said the next Final Fantasy is going to have a very similar battle system, I'd be all for it. I'd play it again gladly.
Yeah.
Now, if they say this is Final Fantasy for 16, 17, and 18, I'm going to go, okay, that's eventually going to start to get old because eventually we're going, okay, this is, you're just kind of lingering in this middle of not sure where to be. But in this case, I liked it. I don't think it took away from the game at all. I almost compare it. I was just randomly out of nowhere was playing Tales of Zestiria. It feels much more similar to Tales combat, where it's, okay, you're just kind of hitting the attack button. You kind of use these things interchangeably, but for the most part, it's, just kind of this simple, easygoing type of thing.
I think that's what I kind of find kind of frustrating because I like my action games very challenging, and I just didn't feel that, and I felt like the challenge came with stats. So I don't know. I guess I'm still really curious about this game because I really do want to pick it up because the one thing I did like this is getting a little long. I know. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is the thing with that sort of living, breathing world and like that sense of adventure. I never felt like I was actually exploring in Final Fantasy games. I always felt like you go to like new locations and stuff, but you're not really exploring. Like you go down the wrong way and you find a chest. But this one actually felt like real exploring, and like I think a lot of people with with Final Fantasy 16, they're like, oh, we should not do what they did with Final Fantasy 15. 16 should go back to a more traditional one. But I was like, that sense of exploration in like from when I played Final Fantasy, it was like completely unmatched like before in like games I've played before. I love that sort of like it kind of felt like that this is sort of like pulled from like Xenoblade and a bunch of other things and Bloodborne and a bunch of like these sort of more exploratory games. I mean, do you like what do you see from Final Fantasy 15 you wish they would take forward into 16?
I like the idea of the open world. I don't necessarily know. I'm not huge on open world games.
Yeah.
I like this one because you have I like the road.
Yeah.
The road guides you.
Mm-hmm.
If you stay on the road, you really can pretty much mainline this game without doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that it gives you the option.
Okay.
Because you can just wander your ass off for like hours and just find random stuff. And even in end game stuff, you're just wandering around and there's just dungeons that are kind of hidden off the road and that you kind of get information from side characters you'd never find unless you're looking for.
Yeah.
And that's really cool because that gives you that sense of exploration. It gives you the sense that this is a real world, that like, oh yeah, these guys in this city kind of know about this cave that's around here that I could go and explore.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have the option to just get in your car and go from town to town, dungeon to dungeon, wherever you happen to be going to get through this. And I think that ability is a good bridge between the two because it satisfies people like you who want to be able to go, I can explore this whole world. This is so great. And people, I tend to be much more along the lines of, give me a linear game that is predetermined to be, this is the best path and this is going to be the way that you're going to see the cool stuff that you want to see to enjoy this game to the fullest. There's other stuff on the side, but that's just extra thrown on top if you want it. I like that this has that very clear path of going, next spot's over here, you jump in your car, you hit auto, we're going to drive you right there, and you can do that. Yeah. But you have that option. So I really like that. And I think if it feels like what they wanted to do in 13, where it's like, okay, this part of the game is linear and this part is open world, quote unquote, even though it's not really still.
Yeah.
But it does a good job of kind of combining those two and giving you options. And that's one of the things that I like about this game, is it gives you those options from the get-go. As soon as you park that car, you can, within 5 minutes, it's open. You can just start mainlining the story if you want to, or you can just go, you know what, screw the story. I'm just going to go kill monsters for the next 20 hours.
Yeah, yeah. Dang it, that sounds pretty cool.
It really is. And I will admit, I was really down after I played the Japanese demo as well, and platinum demo and stuff, and I was kind of down on it. Like, I was really excited about this, and then I started playing it in those little demo chunks, and I was really down on it to the point where that's why I didn't end up getting it till late December, because it's just like, I don't think I'm gonna like it. I didn't like it, but I'm curious. And jumping in and actually spending some time with it, the game is phenomenal. I think if we redid our games of the year from last year, this would be towards the top. It's a great game. It's fun. It's easygoing. It's laid back. It's a great story for these characters. It's got just that sense of adventure that I feel like a game like this should have.
Damn it. I really like the setting too. I thought the setting was really cool. We didn't talk about that, but I love that modern fantasy thing. Like, I think that is such a cool idea.
Yep. And it's one of those not often explored things.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We've had a million games set in universes like Final Fantasy X and all those other ones, and this one's kind of a different one.
Yeah. Just using a cell phone in a fantasy game is so cool to me. All right. It's so weird. It's such a weird concept. All right. So that was I guess our review of Final Fantasy. I'll probably pick this up eventually. I think I'm gonna pick it up once all the DLC. I'm gonna wait for that whatever super ultimate DLC edition.
Super
is.
ultimate patch.
Yeah.
And the big old patch that takes away the bullshit that is Chapter 13.
Yeah. We can turn this review into an hour long if you want.
No, it's okay. We'll end it here. I'm good here.
All right. If you guys like what you heard, we're Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. If you like what you heard, you guys subscribe to us on YouTube. We are on other stuff that if you're currently listening to us, you can click subscribe and leave comments. We like comments. We'll respond. We'll say hi. All right. See you guys next week.
See ya.